All right.
Yes, sir.
Finally, how long has it been? 4 months we've been working on this thing now?
Yeah, we got the place March 2nd, March 3rd. I think one of those days we'll have to look at
We're
the
almost through
the
July,
agreement.
so
Yeah.
good four
So
months.
yeah. So from the way the place looked
Mhm.
to the way it looks now,
Mhm.
it's is a like day, not even day and night,
Mhm.
day in a different universe. It
It
just
looked
looks.
uh, it looked like a church meeting.
Yeah, that's what you describe it as a
Yeah,
church meeting.
yeah. It had some things on the wall hanging. It
Yeah.
looked very. I think that's what they used it for. Like.
It looked like if they had
Mhm.
if they had what you call it bars
Uh huh.
around it,
Mhm.
this would be like a institution,
Mhm.
right? That's the way it looked. The colors, it was
Mhm.
just dreary.
Like beige, right? Like.
Yeah, and it was like it wasn't even like the
Mhm.
the cool beige. It was like a dead
Mhm.
beige.
Mhm.
It totally looked. And if you guys look and on the Facebook, you probably see
Mhm.
some pics of those pictures.
It actually looks like a set from the movie Tron now.
Yeah, it looks dynamic in here.
Mhm.
Putting a lot of work in here.
Mhm.
You know, for me, it's I've always been about the creativity, the creative eye. You know,
Mm.
remember when I told you, hey, I have a vision and it's gonna look this way,
Mhm.
and you'd look at me kind of like,
Mhm.
you remember?
Yeah, I didn't really. I didn't see it like this at all. Actually, I'm like, damn, it's gonna take a lot of work. Like we painted the walls. We started like we were doing so many other things.
Yeah.
Like at first there was kind of like the base. Like. And then when the lights kicked in, you ordered the shelf. Oh, the shelf is gonna look sick. You said, like, and
Right,
we
right.
finally put it all together, piece by piece. We put this thing up, the banner on the table,
Mm-hmm.
on the wall there. The things that say live, like recording outside.
Side.
There's one that says recording in progress. Please be
Exactly.
quiet.
Exactly.
Please shut up.
Well, it didn't want to say shut up because then it'll be
Then they'll
be
do it on purpose.
exactly, exactly. So they the thought that went into it was, for me, I have I've told you, just like you are an autodidactic musician, you learn by just uh, you're self-taught, right?
Mhm.
And you learn by seeing and actually duplicating.
Mhm.
For me, I see colors in my head,
Mhm.
and I've always been good with colors.
Mhm.
Eh, Kind of a story, backstory. When I was young, as a child, my mom would take me shopping with her
Mhm.
because she would remember that whenever I see colors, how I was able to blend them because I used to draw very early on and I would match colors very well. So I guess she saw that she didn't really come out and say it. She just realized that I had a natural knack for
Mhm.
blending colors. If you threw out 10 different colors
Mhm.
and you asked me to put them in order, I'll be able to put them in order with my eyes closed. And I would be able to look at the colors and blend and tell you which colors would make a different color innately.
Mhm.
That's just a gift of mine. So that's
Mhm.
why I would paint, I would draw, I would color the different artistic
Mhm.
things. And so when when I first got the place and I sat back and I said, the visions I have in my head. And for the first week I just came here,
Mhm.
sat down, and I looked at the place and I visualized, and then it's just like everything just came in and I just saw it. And then I said, Clyde, I know how the place is going to
Mhm.
look. And then he was like, really? Really? You know, excuse me, you know who you are when you're on the phone. Like,
Yeah.
really? You just kind of nonchalant because
Yeah.
you can't see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like when you're telling me about music. I can understand because coming from a musician background, performing and stuff like that, and going to the studio recording, I could understand what you're trying to explain to me, but not not coming for you, not coming from a point of seeing it on a visual artist. It was hard for you to see, and I realized that. But then when I started putting pieces and I started putting pieces together,
It
started
came to
putting,
life. Yeah.
and it started coming to life. So
I always thought that was such an amazing thing, the fact that people can do that. Like it's literally imagining something which is it's not matter in any way, right? It's just a thought,
right, right,
and then you put work into it, like your energy, time, and it actually materializes.
correct,
It's
correct,
literally like making magic happen. When you
correct,
think
correct.
about it. And this happens in many facets, like composers composing music,
Right.
for example. They picture it, and then sometimes it takes a really long ass time to have it actually realized.
Right,
What
right.
about civilizations like buildings and all of those? You have thousands of people working on projects that take multiple years, and it was just a thought at first.
Correct.
And then architect turned it into a blueprint, engineer, they said, how are we going to make this thing work? And then countless other people that work tirelessly to actually construct that
Correct.
to bring it into fruition. um, I don't think that's anything short of magic and a miracle.
And that's why that's actually a good segue to the what I was just thinking. That's why when it comes to creator, it the inception will come from one person. That thought will come from one person,
An initiator.
the initiator, and then that person can convey it to others and say, "Hey, this is how I'm seeing it."
Yeah.
Maybe they won't see it initially, but once the spread started going over
Yeah.
and going out,
Yeah, it
you know,
starts
start
becoming
covering,
real in your
it
head.
started
Yeah.
becoming real, and then they say, "Oh, I could add this," and "Oh, I could add that," you know.
And the initiator is not really the person that initiates anything, because he studied, he learned, this goes way back.
Right, right,
So it's initiation of a particular project, of a particular situation. You could
Right.
call him that. Okay, he initiated it. You started it.
right.
But it came from other things way before. Like you studied other people, you saw other things, and it's like, oh, okay, so they could be labeled initiators.
Correct, correct.
Something that came prior. Like before you started this. But yeah, it's and I.
So we can talk about before we talk about our history.
Mhm.
We can talk about a little bit more about how the concept came together, and I can tell you about that. And of course, I've mentioned that to you before, but I saved some of the juicy part, until this day when we're actually sitting here and recording.
I noticed that. I noticed you were doing that with me. Like we would get into conversations, and you just like get into it, but then at some point you would stop. You would stop talking, stop answering, and I'm like, I think he's trying to save it for the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, let's not give out all the juicy bits.
Yeah, yeah.
Take it easy, Clyde. Like I got you a few months from now.
Right. So let me give you the backstory.
Mhm.
So back in 2005,
Mhm.
I was working on a book. And I was working on a book because I remembered growing up, and my mom and my father, and I would gravitate toward my father a lot. And my mom had a tendency of sometimes she seems a little bit unnerved about that, I didn't know why. I learned that later on in life, and we can get in that in the future shows, right? And in 2005, I sat down to write a book. And the reason why I sat down to write a book is because I decided to take a break from women, and I wanted to go in a mode of conscious thinking. And I was on a quest to sort of find my purpose or find myself. Knowing that I love to do art, I have this creative mind. I want to do 1,000,001 things. And I don't know if you ever heard the saying, a jack of all trade and a master of none, right? So that was kind of like it for me. I was doing this, I was doing that, I was doing this, I was doing that. So I sat down to write the book. And I'm going to tell you the title of the book. And I told a couple of friends in the past about it. And the title of the book is called You Don't Have to Be Gay to Be in Touch with Your Feminine Side. Right? And the reason why I started writing that book, after I realized that I had this side about me that I can empathize with women, I could almost, it's like I could almost feel what they're going through. Seeing how my mom would go through it sometimes, seeing how my siblings or my friends, female friends would go through it. I thought that it would do the world well if I was able to write that, saying that a man, a heterosexual man, can have a sensitive side and not be homosexual, right? Or gay. So when I sat down to write the book, I decided it was going to be a dozen chapters. And I wrote 11 chapters.
So you're almost done with it?
I was almost done with it. And I was actually 2 paragraphs in the 12th chapter. And something happened, and I could not gain access to the account anymore. I was using at the time Dropbox.
Oh, something
Right.
similar happened with me. I lost a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything that important in there,
Yeah.
but I do remember going through that
Yeah.
with Dropbox. And I dropped Dropbox after that.
Well,
I was like, you know what, I'm not going to use this thing anymore. I think I still have an account that lingers on, but I don't use it to store files. I use Google Drive now. So.
yeah. So when that happened, I was like, I know, I remember the password, but no matter how many times I put the password in, because it's the same password I had for my email. It's the same password I had for my other account. It's the same password I had for my domain accounts, back in 2005. I'm like, why is it not working? I cannot gain access to Dropbox. And I panicked for a long time. Like, I need to gain access. So I gave it some time. I said, maybe Dropbox is going through some technical issues. I will try another time. I waited. Still could not get into Dropbox. So eventually, I lost the book, right? And I poured a lot into it. I was, I think, 10 months into writing it. And I dug deep because it was a while I was thinking about writing it. And that's why
2005.
This was 2005. So I started writing it in 2005. I started writing it, I think it was like January, February 2005. And almost the end of the year, I was
Mm-hmm.
done with the book, right? And I'd set a little money aside to print up some original like hard copies, and that it didn't come to fruition. So in that mind space, mind frame, I said, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna get this book again. I just have to deal with it. That I'm losing this. I'm gonna lose the book. But I have something to say. So in that process, I was thinking, and when I was thinking that I have something to say, I was thinking, and that's how Think and Say came up.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2005, I registered Think and Say. Years passed, and I said, I'm going to do a radio show with Think and Say.
Mm-hmm.
So the actual original logo I designed with Think and Say was slightly different from this one. It did incorporate this at the end, at the question mark at the end of Think and Say, but the I was upside down,
Mm-hmm.
like an exclamation point,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then, like I said, jack of all and master of none. I moved on to doing other things, and I didn't focus on Think and Say because I had a bunch of other domains and I wanted to do other things with them. Then YouTube, the internet wars of video started becoming a thing. The internet war of search and all of that was a thing, and all the different tech companies were fighting for dominance. So I thought, Think and Say, I could do something with this. So fast forward in 2008, I was doing property management too. In 2008, some of the story we'll talk about at a different time, but I was doing property management too, and there was someone, a coworker I was working with, and I told him about Think and Say, and I was like, hey, we could buy a camera and we could record some videos and we could put them up on YouTube, and we could start a channel on YouTube or start doing something on YouTube. That's what before channel became a thing. That was in
2008.
Since 2008.
YouTube barely was a thing. At
Yes,
that point. It had
exactly.
only been like a couple of years at that point.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, hey, we could get a camera and we could we could put some content
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, yeah, that's a good idea. And not to mention, I was also heavy into credit repair. So I learned how to do credit repair. I still know how to do it, right? But I don't bother with it anymore. But I understand how to do it, and I did it for myself, and I did it for a few other people, and I showed other people how to do it. And I was saying, hey, we could do this. We could, start a financial service, or that we could give people advice on how to fix their financial credit and financial situation with their credit. So I bought another domain, weinvesting.com. And WeInvesting would have been the business for teaching people how to do credit. And of course, it's a business, so making money from it. And Think and Say would have been the video service or video platform that we used to talk about what we are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Things didn't progress, and other things happened, and I lost the domain. I didn't renew it. I lost it. Somebody else picked up the domain. So for many years, didn't have the domain, but I kept on thinking about Think and Say. So I watched it, and I watched it year after year after year, and then when it became available again, I snapped it up. And now I had Think and Say again, right? And I said, I have Think and Say now. And I'm going to do this. So I started asking people, hey, let's do this together. And that's right around the time when I met you, because in 2008, at the end of 2008, I had a boss, and she got the job because the president of management company interviewed her, hired her. She hired her, but with a contingency to it. She didn't know the contingency was I was going to interview her, even though she was going to be my superior. She was going to be the boss. I decided not to take the position because I didn't want to be a property manager. I came from doing that. I came from being a assistant compliance director for a development company. I didn't want to do it. I know the amount of paperwork, reports, and all of that stuff I would have to do, and how time consuming it can be. So I interviewed her, and then the president said, "Hey, what do you think about her?" And I said, "She's okay. I think she'll work out." Silly me. She started working there, and she started hitting on me. On a scale of 1 to 10, we talk about looks. I would say she's a 7.5, maybe 8 on a good day. She's Caucasian, right? And she had this admiration for me. So she said, "I never been with a Jamaican. I never been with a quote unquote black guy, unquote." So I was like, "Black guy, okay." So my mom came there, and I'm telling you just before why, leading up to why, how I met you. So my mom came there, and she said to my mom, "Your son is handsome, and he's tall, and he's slim, and he's muscular."
What's doing? It's powering off.
So,
Sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties.
hey, it's our first day, but everything
It's
works.
going to happen.
It's
Yeah,
just
alright.
one of those things, right?
Okay.
So she says to my mom,
Mm-hmm.
"Your son is so tall, handsome. The things I would do to him." So my mom was taken aback. She was like, "Really? I know my son is nice looking, but you didn't have to tell me like that what you want to do to my son." It's like, she was like, "I was just saying." So she decided that she's going to stay after work one day. And she and I alone were in the office. And she threw her legs up on the desk and asked me to massage her shoulders. I promptly moved from behind her because I was taking something out of the file cabinet and went and sat in front of her. So I didn't. So that was kind of a rejection. So what she started doing was coming to work in very short or inappropriate attire for a boss. And we can talk about what I experienced in other episodes in the future, right? But lo and behold, she started piling on her work to me, on top of my work, because I would not take to her advances. So eventually, she decided that I can't work there anymore. And so I was out of a job. My daughter had just been born just a few months before, in October. And she got her boss to terminate me on my mother's birthday in December. And so for a few months I didn't have a job. And we were also moving, right? So we just moved into our new place. My daughter's mother and myself, and with her daughter. And we had one vehicle at the time. And so the train station wasn't too far. I'll just walk over to the train station where I met you. And that was in 2009. That was February, the end of February 2009.
I don't remember
I
exactly.
think it was February 27th or February 28th when I when I met you. I remember seeing you walking like up and down, and you walk back and forth, and you had your head slightly tilted, and you looked like you were in deep thought, like you had something you wanted to go home and do, or you wanted to leave and go and do that thing. And he was like, that's what he just kept you walking back and forth. Do you remember how we?
I don't. I remember certain days that I saw you there at the station, but not specifically. Like, I mean, this was 2009. It's 14 years ago. I don't remember specifically like what month. I don't know. You were going south. You had
No,
business?
I was going north. North, yeah, I was going north.
I don't know. It was a long time ago.
It was
I
February.
had a lot of things on my mind.
Yeah, it was February 27th, 28th, right? And the machine was not working. And I
Again,
asked,
that thing, like 50% of the time, that thing was
yeah.
out.
And I was looking around for someone to help me, and I went inside of the Amtrak office, and it was like there's someone outside to help you. And I walked outside. I think the shirt was blue. I think she said he looked for a person in a light blue shirt.
That's right.
And I came out and I looked around and I saw you, and I was like, "Hey, excuse me." And you turn around, and then you start walking towards, which is you walked north, and then you started walking back south to where the machine was midway. And I said, "Hey, this machine is not working." And he was like, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to Palm Beach." And he was like, "Did you buy your ticket yet?" I'm like, "No, I'm trying to buy the ticket and it's not working." He was like, "This machine." And you press some button. Oh, there you go.
Oh, it worked.
And it worked. And then I put the money, $5 in, and I bought a ticket for two-way. And
I still can't believe I did that job for 11 years, man.
what's 11 years?
From 2006 until 2017.
Wow.
What a waste of time that was. At some point, I felt like, because the same people that would take the train to go to Boca or, to school, to FAU or FIU South, I felt like they were, at some point, they finished school, they got their diploma, they graduated, they got a job, and now some of them went back to take the train to go to work now. So I always, like, towards the end, the final years of working there, I felt like everybody, got to move on and do their thing, and I'm still stuck here, like showing people how to use the buttons on the machine.
Yeah.
What a waste. I kept feeling like a waste of, and obviously it wasn't just me. I know this happens, with a whole bunch of people. A waste of potential, like people are obviously more capable of, than just using the machine to get a ticket.
Right.
But I mean, it was chill, and I was doing other things at the same time. It's not like I only did that. Like I did go to school from 2006 to 2009.
Yeah.
I was going to school, and then I started doing some other stuff on the side. I did start my YouTube channel in 2010. So I did a lot of. I was more active on YouTube. I was making more videos in the beginning. Um, yeah, it was quite a lot of fun.
Uh, well, I used to look at certain jobs or
Mm-hmm.
certain endeavors as like, man, I wasted my time.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized, after I read some books,
Mm-hmm.
and I realized that nothing in life is a waste. It's an experience. You can either learn from that experience, or you can you can thrive, or you can go in oblivion. So you have to decide which direction you want to go. Say, hey, I did that job for so long. What did I learn from it? The good thing is that we met.
Right. I met a lot of cool people.
Right.
You're right. You know. I mean, again, I don't look at it like, oh, what a horrible. You know. I don't think of anything like that in my past, really.
Mm.
You know. I do compare. You know, like for example, leaving Germany, where the school that I was going to looked like a mansion, like a castle,
Mm-hmm.
coming to, school over here. And I went to Miami Jackson Senior High,
Mm-hmm.
junior and senior year, and all I remember is walking in between classes. I was the only white guy there. They
Mm-hmm.
called me white guy,
Mm.
and I was the kicker. Junior and senior year, I played kicker in football. The first day,
Mm-hmm.
one of the coaches, who also happened to be like a security guard type thing, he asked me, "Do you know how to kick?" And my English wasn't very good at first, in the beginning. I assumed he meant, soccer,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't play football in Germany. Um,
You play the real football.
we play soccer,
Right, the real football.
real football.
Right. We're gonna
And
get a lot of flack for saying that.
yeah, yeah, come on, man. But yeah, they asked me if I knew how to kick, and I was like, yeah, I know how to kick. I used to play, soccer. Oh, he told me. It's just I didn't know. Like even while playing, both years, uh, I still didn't know all the rules, like how things, like how football, like I didn't know all the rules and stuff. Like I'll
Right.
just go in, like when the coach called me in, he'd be like, "Hey, Clyde, field goal, come on," you know.
Mm-hmm.
And both years I scored more points than everybody else in my team.
Really.
You know, it's not much. It doesn't say much because we didn't do well as a team. Like we did all right, I guess. But it was a fun experience,
Mm.
and I barely got tackled or anything like that. Kickers usually,
Mm-hmm.
it was a fun experience though. A funny story. My current job right now, somebody just came who graduated with me from the same school.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't recognize him at all, man. Like, but he remembered me. He's like, "You're Clyde, yeah. You played kicker. I was there." You know.
Mm-hmm.
It was him and his girlfriend, and they met in high school, still together.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
really
Since
good.
2003, it's 20 years now, 2 decades.
Those are the type of people that
Yeah.
we're gonna have to get on this
Yeah, we're
podcast,
gonna have to invite
because
someone.
we need to
Balance this thing out.
exactly, we need to
You know?
balance this
It's
thing
not all
out.
hookup culture.
Exactly. We don't really subscribe to the hookup culture. We're older men. Well, I shouldn't say that, because there's some older men that are
That are still engaging
in
in
the
it.
hookup culture. So
Yeah.
so in us knowing each other, you're like, hey Garth, you should come by. He told me about the piano. Because music, we're both musician,
Mhm.
and I came by, and then I met your mom and her bread. No, I should say I met your mom's bread. Then I met your mom.
I need to know this person who made this bread.
Bread. And he was like, "Oh, my mom made this bread." He was like, "You like that?" "Yeah, I like that." It's like your mom started making loaves of bread. I would just, the breads are so soft. I'd eat a whole loaf.
Yeah,
You know?
she's really good at that stuff.
Yeah, and then we stayed in touch over the years. I would reach out to you. We'll talk about your music. I would talk about ideas.
We
You
stayed
know,
in touch, but we didn't talk for many years.
yeah, yeah. Every so often, I reach out to
Yeah.
you. You know, I would listen to your music. You know, I would give you feedback. I would call you or send a text to you and give you feedback that you should be more charismatic when you're going to record, because you're just robotic. You just play and just that's it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Right, many times.
Clyde Hyder also was your advice.
Right.
It was your suggestion to not use the whole name. It's just I was thinking like Soshahi is it's too long. You know, like
Right.
people don't know how to pronounce the J at
J.
the end. They think they don't know that it's silent, so
Right.
they pronounce it Hidershaj.
Right.
Hidershaj.
Mm.
So that gets rid of all of that. They still mispronounce it. They say Clyde Hyder. It's Heater, right? But whatever.
It doesn't.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, it sounds cool. Clyde
sounds cool.
Hyder.
It
Right.
sounds like Providence. You know,
Right.
like 5 letters Clyde, 5 letters Hyder. You know.
Right.
Yeah. So I stuck with it.
And look, today you're gonna be hiding behind the producer's bay.
My current job, this one guy, it still says that on the name tag on
Hyder?
on the tip box. No, he put hide and seek.
Oh, hide and seek. Yeah.
You see, like all those things, like completely
Yeah.
independent of each other,
Mhm.
but they make more sense. You know, hide
Right.
and seek.
Right.
Clyde hide and seek.
So I said,
We may
I-
want to invite that guy too, actually, one day.
yeah, of course, definitely. You know,
Chris, such a
So-
cool character.
I asked a bunch of people, like, hey, I want to do this. But the one person I had in mind that would be the person that will be dealing with the music and all of that stuff was always been you. You were like my secret weapon that nobody knew about,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I just knew that you would have acquiesced to doing this because it's something that you love. You love music, and this incorporate media, music and video. And I was like, this is something Clyde would do, and here we are, right? So
I was thinking about that, Garth, because not too long ago, maybe like 2 years ago, a friend of mine, guy I work out with, I met him at FIU, so I've known him quite some time. You know, using 3D printing to create molds, to shape concrete into even furniture, but like very specific shapes. You can do that because it's easier to create a mold in 3D. You know, with 3D printing.
correct.
And the idea was to create anything really made out of concrete, you know, including furniture and stuff like that. But the printer was not cooperating during that period of time, and I would see him, like we would still work out, but I'm like, oh, you know, like I just have to wait, you know, like, and many months passed by before, you know, he kind of like gave up. He was like, look, Clyde, like this, you know, we're supposed to be working like 6 hours a day on this, you know, like to see it happen, you know, to make it real. And it kind of just like died down, not because I didn't want to, like I wanted to, but maybe you could say maybe I wasn't really into it, which is why I couldn't figure out ways around it or something. And that's one instance. The other one is another friend of mine. He, for a year, this was back in 2018, he would come over my place and we would make music, and we created some music together and stuff. But his thing was to play live, like as a band. He was a drummer. He was good at the guitar.
Yeah.
And I was going to be the piano, maybe, create songs and the lyrics, and perform them live. Nothing happened of that, and again, the same thing. I feel like I wasn't really
Immersed.
like I wasn't really like I enjoyed my time, with him when he came over. We made some good music. It was fun, it was enjoyable. But it never followed into anything that, could, uh, you know, translate into making money, like to actually go out there and do it professionally, And I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the environment, the situation that I found myself in at that time. It just didn't line up. It wasn't right. It wasn't the right time, because these are things that I enjoy. I enjoy 3D, creating 3D designs, like 3D printing them, especially for useful and like utility purposes. I've had this talk with my brother, like, because he's the one that does the 3D graphics most of the time, right? When we create 3D prints, like if it's just a visual thing, that's beautiful, that's nice, that's enjoyable, it's nice, that it comes out looking good, right? But using 3D printing for utility purposes, when you come up with something that actually solves a problem and fixes something, that's the most like you feel really good about that, like
you accomplished something.
Yes, like anyways, I keep going off on tangents. The point that I was trying to make was that now that I did this with you, like for the past 4 months, I've been coming up here to help out with setting up the room, and I feel like it's not just because I enjoy this, but it's also like a situational thing. Like I find myself in a situation where I can actually follow through on this. Like it was a bit more difficult before, like just the fact that it's like 20 miles away from where I live, this location, and it's without a car I wouldn't have been able to come up here. So I just recently got a car, so it makes it easier. Like that's what I mean by situation.
Right.
Certain things did not line up at in those other situations, and that's why they didn't work out, I think.
If you guys didn't catch our names,
because we didn't say them.
We didn't really say them, so we're gonna throw our names out in there right now. My name is Soshahi, Garth Soshahi, and
my name is Clyde Hidershai,
or Clyde Hyder.
Clyde Hyder for short.
Yes.
In case you can't pronounce the whole last name.
Yes, that makes him cooler. That's the cool effect.
He does sound more like an artist name.
Yeah.
Clyde Hyder.
Hey,
we'll just
don't worry. If you're ever in trouble, he's hiding right around the corner, waiting for you to say, "Ah!" Scream, and he's come and save you. The superhero, Clyde Hyder, or Clyde Hitter.
Clyde Hitter.
Right. So
right.
That's who we are. Garth Soshahi. Everybody that knows me calls me Soshahi. You can call me Soshahi. And I guess you can either call him Clyde or you could just call him the Hitter.
The Hitter.
Yeah. Yeah. He hits a home run. All right. So I'm the host, and
I'm the producer.
And together we are the creators of Think and Say podcast. And so now we're going to talk about Think and Say and why, a little bit more why I came up with it. I know kind of like I kind of threw that out. With the idea of having something to say, a lot of people tend to just say things. Some people are erratic, some people are calm, stoic, and they make rational decisions, and the erratic people make irrational decisions. there are a lot of platforms out there that would it be in a lane of talking about only a specific topic or subject. There are many shows on TV, on the internet, and I felt like I wanted to add my sauce into the mix, add a different flavor. Some people are going to say that it's a bit of the same. Obviously, we live in a world where nothing is new. The game never changed, only the players, even though we may think the game changed, it's still the same game. Just the players that has changed. So, the concept of think and say, like we touched on before, started out about me writing a book. And writing that book, lost it, and I had something to say, and I was thinking about it, and so think and say came up. And in that process, other components came into the mix. The other components is Learnific. And the reason why Learnific, which is another part of the network, the reason why Learnific came about is because a few years back I was on an assignment and something was explained to myself and a colleague. I grasped it right away. And when I grasped it, he didn't understand. So I explained it to him, and he still did not get it. And I explained it to him more and some more, and he still did not get it. And I said, okay, I learn in different ways. I'm a bit autodidactic, kinesthetic, and I said, he has to learn in a different way, And so I set out to research the different learning styles, and I learned that there are 8 different learning styles. And I said, okay, this is going to make sense with as a component of think and say. And I decided that I'm going to buy the domain. And when I decided I'm going to buy the domain, someone else already owned the domain. And so I paid a pretty penny for the domain. And I put them together, and it formed Learnific, Think and Say. Mm-hmm. And when it formed Learnific, Think and Say, said, that's going to be difficult for people to understand. Learnific, Think and Say. So let me come up with a variation of Learnific, Think and Say, which brought about learnthinksay.com. And I checked to see if the domain was available. And lo and behold, learnthinksay.com was available. I said yes, and I bought it. And so now it became Learn, Think, Say, right? LTS, which formulate the whole body of what I came up with, what transpired in my mind. And in the Learn, Think, Say, we know people have to learn. Animals learn too. People have to think. Animals think too. And people have to say something. They have the need to say something. Mm-hmm. So thinking is the second step of putting stuff in action, because you can think about something and you can do nothing about it. You can learn about something and you can do nothing after you learn about it. The say is the action. Mm-hmm. Lots of people may say is words, but no, there is such a thing as body language. Our body speaks. So I decided that it's going to take me and you to create something that is going to show people that you learn, you think about what you learn, and then you put it in action, which is to say. And this is where we are. So when you go to look us up, you can look us up through learnthinksay.com, learnific.com, thinkandsay.com, and LTS Media is actually a network. We have other channels that we haven't yet launched, and in the future we're going to be launching them, like the Daily Say, and I won't get into the other ones. And so this is where we are. So we've talked about Think and Say, and we talked about Learnific, and those are the two flagship of the Learn Think Say network. Think and Say, as you and I have discussed and other people have asked what Think and Say is about, Think and Say consists of 4 shows. And you want me to elaborate more on those? All right. So, Think and Say has 4 shows. The first show is called the Dating Q&A Show. And as we know, dating and relationship is a big topic, a big subject. It's been going on since the beginning of time, before the word dating was a thing. Relationship, I don't even think before relationship, the word relationship was a thing. People have been getting together, creating offspring. But we're in a modern time where we talk about dating, relationships. So one of our shows is called the Dating Q&A Show. Questions and answers. Then there is the Money Tool. The Money Tool is where we're going to be explaining to people how money works. We can use money as an advantage or a disadvantage. And in society, a lot of the way we use money is to our detriment. I myself have used money to my detriment. And some people, lots of people, have used money to their advantage. So that's what the Money Tool is going to be about. We're going to be bringing in guests, and we're going to be having conversation from real estate to how currency move, the new forms of currency, business, finance, everything around, as much as we can grapple with about money, to give our perspective on how money should work and how we think money is not just something to play with, but actually something that could be useful if we know how to put it to good use. Then there is risque conversation. Risky conversation is more broad. It's broad because we're going to be talking about the different topics and issues that are plaguing society. And don't want to elaborate too much on that. We know the different things that are plaguing society, whether it's identity, dysmorphia, identity politics, just a slew of different things. Race, racism, race baiting, cultural issues, cultural norms, just a slew of different things that we're going to be discussing with risque conversation, some of the hush hush topics. Then, kind of one of my favorite is police and policies. My mom was a cop. My biological father was a cop. Uh, one of my very best friend was a cop. And he's so dear to me that I would have conversation with him, and he says to me, "Soshahi, let me tell you something." I said, "What?" He says, "All these people out there that are arguing with the police officers, they don't realize that no matter what they say, the power is in the paper and the pen. It's black and white. Whatever is written down, that's what they're going to go with. So if you ever get into any issues, talk less. Don't give the police any ammunition to have anything much on you. Be respectful and polite." That's my norm. That's my nomenclature. Yeah, I'm usually respectful and polite. Very blunt, but respectful and polite. But if I'm tugged in different direction, I may say something, and that would kind of take me out of my stoicism. I like to be more calm and collective. You know how I am. I'm very jovial. I laugh around a lot. I make weird jokes that sometimes goes nowhere and they end up getting laughed at because my jokes are not that funny. But I don't know. I get a kick out of my jokes.
It works for you.
It works for me, right? So with police and policies, we're going to bring police officers in, local community politicians. The policies of police and policies is refers to the policies and politician, the police that enforces these policies. And I think when it's mentioned, when folks ask, "What is Think and Say podcast about?" and then I reached to police and policies, they was like, "Wow, that's very interesting. I think I want to be involved. I like that, you know." So those are the 4 shows that are going to be within our podcast. And what's your feed? What's your feed? What you have to
add to
Yeah,
this?
add to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the risque conversation was it stood out. But police and policies, that sounds very catchy, very interesting. The whole thing I've watched in recent years, I would say going back to like 2016. I've watched like a lot of videos on on relationships, and I've read a few books on it too, from written way before, back in the 70s. Just to get a better understanding of why things are the way they are. And because before I looked into all of this stuff, I feel like all this stuff was kind of like put together by movies and songs, romanticism, like it's you watch a movie and it's like, okay, like but it's obviously real life is not a Disney movie, so all this stuff has to be gradually kind of like taken apart again.
Right.
I felt like I was fed a lot of wrong information, not on purpose. I think like all of these things are done because they're nice, like, oh, it's a fairy tale, it's beautiful, but we grow up watching those things, and then they steer our mind in a different direction. one that is like when you try to live life based on that, now it's you find yourself wait, like it's not making any sense. Like this is
Right.
not working out. It's not
Right.
unfolding
Right.
like that. You know, and it's very difficult to undo because again, if it's in childhood that all these things are layered upon your brain, you know, then breaking out of that is a very difficult thing. But it does ring true though. You know what I mean? Like watching some of those videos that are that talk about relationship, you know, like how people, why people behave the way they do, and relationship stuff, you know, like like I know there must be something real behind it, you know what I mean? Because if it wasn't, if I hadn't seen it in my life, you know, like how it actually happened in real life, not in movies and stuff, you know, in fairy tales, then I would have dismissed it, you know, like it would be easily dismissible, you know. You see something, wait, then you would be like, what is this guy talking about? He's completely off, you know, like he's not on point, you know, like he's not talking about anything real. But because I can bounce the things that those people are saying, and we'll get more into that. I don't want to give too much away.
Right.
Because I can bounce it off of my own experiences, what I've seen, you know, is that, you know, it's a breath of fresh air.
Right.
You know?
And folks, I know it seems like we're a bit all over the place, but we're purposefully doing that.
Yes, we're just like skipping over.
Yes, we're purposefully doing that because we are going to get more targeted, more
detail.
specific as we move, as we start bringing in guests. But we just kind of like want to just play with today's show just between myself and Clyde, the hitter.
The hitter.
Right? And just have a little fun with this broadcast. Well, we're not really. We're just recording and right?
Yeah, this is not. Well, obviously, it's not gonna be live. It's pre-recorded. I'm gonna edit it.
Right.
Make sure everything, the audio is in sync and everything. The GoPro keeps overheating, so we have. We are live, but it's unlisted right now. So we're just gonna take the file that's gonna be saved from this, and
Right.
you know, we're gonna cut to that video up there
Mm-hmm.
whenever this thing gives out.
All right. So
I'm gonna have to look into that. Maybe it's a Hero 10 problem, and that's the Hero 11. That's why that one hasn't shut down.
probably both of them haven't shut down.
Right, 1 and 6. Right, this one keeps shutting off
Hey,
because it's too hot.
they are thinking and saying. This one is not thinking.
Not thinking.
It tries to speak, but it keeps.
Well, I mean, we got some good
Yeah,
footage
we
out
have-
of
yeah, we
it,
got
so I
some,
can use some of it.
Yeah.
I don't have a drive with me. I was thinking. Anyways, we'll figure that out.
We'll figure that out. Yeah, so we're purposefully just kind of like tumbling over different ideas, and in the future we'll get more specific when we do other one-on-ones and bring other people in as guests. So the studio, we spent several months of designing it. It's a beautiful studio, if I might say so myself.
You may say so.
Thank you. I appreciate.
It's,
I humbly
really
accept.
nice. Very
Yes.
very good looking.
Yes. So we have multiple angles in the studio. We have a total of 6 cameras, actually 7 because we are
With
one in
this
the
one now.
in the booth,
Both as well. Yeah.
right? In the producer's bay, and
We try to sound isolated, so people walking outside, they don't.
Yes.
You know,
we did a lot of work because the place that we got was not conducive for doing any kind of recording it. The walls are hollow. The everything was just not conducive. So it took a lot of conscious uh, mind mind power to figure out how to isolate the hallway noise when individuals from other offices are passing. You know, whether it's the attorney,
Mm.
uh, the attorneys that are here, the insurance companies that are here, the stylist that's here, the psychologist that's here, the other there's a bunch of other businesses that goes on here. So when they're all passing down the hallway, we had to figure out a way to isolate that, let them know that we're recording, and there won't be any issues coming from the hallway because they know that we're inside doing our recording. So
Right.
that in itself took time to figure out how to do that. And let me tell you guys, it was work. We did not ask for any outside help. It was all internal. Some of the time, Clyde, Mr. Hitter, would say, Garth, you sure about this, man? That's a lot of money. And I'm saying, Clyde, something I've always wanted to do, and I believe it's going to work, and we're going to make it work, and I'm going to figure it out. It was figured out, and we're going to keep figuring things out because our goal is to be
More things to learn along the way.
right, exactly. And so we have a very nice place, inviting place for individuals to come and have conversations. And
The next step would be to invite people over
yes,
now.
yes. Next step is to invite people. Whether we actually have, and we'll show that to you when the cam
Hmm.
cools down some. We can show the studio to you. Uh,
After, I guess,
yeah,
you can grab it and just walk around a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah. In a few minutes.
Hmm.
So we actually have a total of 10 mics. We have the host and 8 other mics. So we can have a co-host and other guest or no
Plus my mic.
co-host, and then we have a mic in the producer and camera in the producer's bay. So
So I can join in on the
yeah,
conversation.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So everybody gets a chance to say something. Now on the wall, you'll see think and say, and you'll also see at think and say what. So when you are on the social platforms and you see the question mark on some of the platform which allows the question mark to be in the page name, you will see it. It's actually the what is actually the question mark. So when somebody say what, they're asking a question. When they say who, they're asking a question. When they say where, they're asking a question. When they said when, they're asking a question. When they say how, they're asking a question. So the who, what, why, where, when, and how are all questions. Single word questions. That's what the question mark of the logo is about. It's how, as you can see, it's in the form of a head with a face in a question mark asking the question, what? Why did that happen? How did it happen? When did it happen? Where did it happen? What happened? Who did it happen to?
Hmm.
Right? So that's the concept of the logo. So if you're wondering how did that logo come about, after the domains were acquired, I thought like I need to come up with a logo that's going to make people say, "Huh, that's something to make me think. The logo is embodies that. It embodies the thinking, the learning, the saying, the learning, the thinking, the saying, the thinking, the learning. It embodies what the question that everybody always asks: who, what, why, where, when, and how. And that's what that logo stands for. So, just in case you had any question and you say, hey, that's a really cool logo, that's what it stands for. And like all the other creative ideas that comes to mind, it came to me in a dream. I saw it and I brought it to life with my designer. And then I envision how it's going to look in the studio. You remember when I told you, Clyde? How it's going to look?
Yeah.
You don't remember?
The light.
Yeah, you remember when I was describing it?
Around it.
Yeah, remember when I was describing it? It was like, you had that. How should I say? Hider look. Yeah, you had that not hitter look. You had the hider look, like. And then when you saw it, you was like,
Okay.
that really looks nice. So just in case you guys are wondering, that's what it means. So it covers the spectrum of the who, what, why, where, when, and how.
Alright.
Right? Yeah.
I think we should wrap things up.
Yeah, I think we should wrap things
Maybe,
up. So
I'm gonna grab the camera. See, hopefully it's cooled off by now.
yeah, and then we
take
can
a
show what the
tour.
studio look like.
Yeah.
What the studio looks like, I should say, and then you guys are welcome to subscribe, like, share, follow, and tell all your friends. And
We're gonna be streaming on a bunch of platforms,
Right.
Like Rumble, YouTube,
Yes.
Instagram. Right?
Yes, we're going to be doing some of the shows on different platforms
Mhm.
based on the community guidelines of those platforms. There are certain things that can't be said on some platforms. So
yes, religious content will not be on OnlyFans. It doesn't
yes,
fit there.
we do have an OnlyFans account. So if you go to OnlyFans,
I could not
slash
believe that when he told
think
me
and
that.
say, you will find us there too.
I'm like, who's gonna be shaking ass?
No one is going to be shaking ass and think and say, okay?
But definitely, like religious content again. It's not gonna
Yeah,
be on
we're going to
OnlyFans.
be having different content, different conversation on different platform based on the community guideline. So we wanted to cover all spectrum. I believe we have 12 different platforms that we're on, and some of them you guys are not really familiar with, and they're going to be familiar very soon because they're up and coming platforms, and we wanted to get on those platforms and ride the wave as they grow. Rumble being one of them. Rumble is really big competitor in the market, and then there's Kick.com.
I didn't even know about Kick.
Right, and then
until
there's
last
Odyssey. Odyssey, not Odyssey, right? It's ODYSEE, Odyssey. So it's odyssey.com/think and say. We have Patreon. We have Cash App. We have, of course, I did mention OnlyFans. We have YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter. Did I forget anything? We're in quite a bit of different platforms. So when we do our one-on-one shows, call-in shows, different shows that we're going to do, different on the platforms, we're going to be there. So we want to cover the spectrum, so you guys can experience our creativity on different mediums. All right. So now we're going to turn the rest of this over to the hitter.
Thanks for watching the intro video to Think and Say podcast. Stay tuned for future videos.